we have a huge responsibility in appraisal modernization to make sure that we're giving reliable and robust data.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast, helping appraisers increase their efficiency, quality, and make more money. Here's the guy who makes it his life's mission to create value for real estate appraisers nationwide. Your host and the Appraiser Coach, Dustin Harris.
Welcome to the program, everybody. Dustin Harris hanging out once again on a moving floor. I got to keep moving, otherwise it's going to eat me up. We have a great guest waiting in the wings. You can see him if you are on YouTube. Can't wait to introduce him again to the program. But first, want to remind you that we're sponsored by a couple of great companies out there. Alamode being one, 800 Alamode or alamode.com, and of course, the great company Working RE Magazine, where I go to get all kinds of information about what's going on in the appraisal world, which we're going to talk a little bit about today, the changes that are happening out there. I want to bring back to the program a good friend of mine, the president of Cubicasa, Mr. Jeff Allen. Jeff, welcome back to the program, my friend. It's good to have you.
Dustin, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, I was just noticing it's been a year since you have been on the program. I think Cubicasa was fairly new a year ago. I assume you've seen some changes over the last little bit. Talk to us, update us.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind of a year, that's for sure, and in a good way. In the last year, Cubicasa has grown significantly. We've launched a free version of our product for real estate agents and real estate photographers. We've signed lots and lots of MLS partnerships, so expanding the use of the product in the listing space. And we've been, adding new features and new enhancements throughout that whole time, and just pushing forward. We're really happy with how the last year has gone. We're ahead of where we expected to be in terms of the number of users and the number of floor plans we're delivering every month. And so it's a great opportunity for us to circle back with you on the podcast and check in.
Nice. Well, I know when we talked about a year ago, you had briefly talked about the idea, and in fact, I think it was fairly new at that time of the free version that mostly, directed at real estate agents, as you said, real estate photographers. Talk to us about that. What's the goal there in getting real estate agents to use a Cubicasa floor plan in their listing?
Well, we know that in other countries around the world besides the United States, floor plans have already become totally ubiquitous in the real estate listing process. So, for example, Australia, the UK, Finland, Sweden, a lot of other European countries, you wouldn't choose to list your house without a floor plan.
Okay.
It's just considered standard. And that creates a really positive experience for consumers because they can actually get a sense for how is this house going to, meet my needs, right? Getting a floor plan is the easiest way to do that if you're a consumer because, it's at 5-second glance, you can get a sense for, is my furniture going to fit? Does this have the right layout that I'm looking for? And, scrolling through 65 photos takes a long time to get there. And, immersive interactive 3D stuff, the Matterport stuff, that's not for everybody.
Sure.
And so the thought was, let's try and be the company that makes that happen in the US, that makes floor plans ubiquitous in the real estate listing process in the US. Because, those markets like Australia, they didn't start with having floor plans on every listing. Like it happened over time, and it happened because consumers got used to seeing them on listings and eventually started saying, hey, where's my floor plan when they list, right? So the thought with the free product was let's kind of be aggressive and bold and remove some of the purchase decision for the agent and for the photographer who supports the agent and just make it really easy to get started. And that's exactly what's happened. So it's been great.
I love it. What's interesting is you may know this, Jeff. I've invested in Airbnbs over the last little bit, And I find that frequently my potential guests will reach out to me. In fact, just this morning, I had a guest reach out and say, "Hey, you got 5 bedrooms in this property. How many of those have in-suite bathrooms?" And of course, I've got to go in and answer the question. I would think a buyer would have a very similar type question that we could avoid. It's almost like saving time for the real estate agent to put that listing up there so they can get those questions answered. The potential buyers get those questions answered without even have to ask them.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah. It just makes the whole process more efficient. So if you're a consumer and you've already viewed the place, and let's say it's especially let's say it's an Airbnb, and you have a real clear sense that like, yeah, this Airbnb is for me, it just reduces the amount of time that you spend thinking about it. It makes it easier for you to make the decision. And for somebody, let's setting Airbnb aside, let's say you're buying your own home. You can actually now, as a buyer, visit the properties that you're already confident work for you. How many times have we heard from agents like, yeah, we did, 30 tours over the weekend, and it turned out most of them weren't going to meet their needs. It was
Yeah,
the living room was too small, the layout was weird. It'd be better to know that stuff up front.
for sure. Now, you talked about the growth that's happened over the last year. Congratulations, by the way. It's really cool to see things growing there. It's a great technology. It's super fun to use, super easy to use. I assume there's been some bumps and bruises along the way. Tell me some of the growth pains that you guys have experienced over the last year, and some of the things that you've done to take care of any technology is going to have its growth stage, right? You're in the midst of that now. Talk to us. What's going on there, and what challenges have you experienced?
Yeah, absolutely. So, first and foremost, the biggest challenge has been scaling up our teams to manage the growth that we've had.
Yeah, that's
So
a good problem to have, Jeff.
it is, but things like customer support, things like customer relationship managers, and then operational folks, just scaling and growing the company has been a big focus for us in the last year. And that's always a challenge, but like you said, it's a fun challenge to have. Additionally, we've invested a lot over the last year in creating kind of self-service tools for our users to make
Mhm.
changes
Well, I
to the
like this. Okay,
product.
talk to us about that. Yeah, I like being in control, man.
Exactly. So to scale to the growth that we've had, we've really needed to make sure that that users have the ability to make adjustments to their product when it's done to the floor plan. So, we've rolled out new features to our quick edit tool that give users the ability to more easily make changes to the floor plan when it's done, adjust how the GLA is calculated for certain spaces,
Mhm.
and then on the real estate listing side of things, do like their own branding and colors to the floor
Ah,
plans, for example. So add your logo, make the color of the floor plan walls be the same as your real estate brokerage, for example. Those are new features we've rolled out that hopefully make the product more scalable and more attractive to the people that use it.
as a listener to this program, I can imagine some, especially those who have never used Cubicasa, might have some question marks, right? Might just say, well, I like the idea, but I've always used my 100-foot tape. I've always used my wheel. I've always used my laser measure. I don't know that I trust something that I'm, that's new, this new technology, ANSI standards, some of the challenges, and there's maybe rumors out there that does it really meet ANSI standards? Does it really give you accurate dimensions? What would you say to someone who's looking at the product and might have some legitimate questions on the legitimacy?
Yeah. So first and foremost, we would definitely understand why people, want to really understand new technology before they embrace it. I'm the same way.
Sure.
So the first thing I would say is just try it, and then and see what you think of the results. We actually make it easy to get started. All you have to do is download the app, and the first one actually is completely free. So if you want GLA, if you want other stuff, we make the first one totally free for you to get all that, just so you can see it and test it out. And if you have questions about it, we've got a team here 24/7 in customer support that's ready to handle questions or address things that you want to learn about after you do that first scan. So that's first. It's just try it. But second thing I would say is, we have a lot of confidence in the reliability and accuracy of our product. So we do a lot of testing to make sure that our results are meeting our standards. And all the internal testing we've done indicate that if you use a LiDAR device for our scan, so that's all the kind of the new Apple devices and Apple Pros and things of that nature. It gets us within a 97 to 9% accurate measurement of dimension. If you're using a non-LiDAR device, it's still quite reliable and accurate. It's more 95 to 97%.
Okay.
Well, we don't have the additional LiDAR tracking data to really boost that accuracy a little bit further. So that's my first advice is if you really want to get accuracy nailed down is to try to get a LiDAR device in your scanning process.
Gotcha. Talk to us a little bit more. I know we touched on this last time you were on the program, but I want to dive in a little bit more too, because one of the questions that I see come up quite often is this idea of ANSI. ANSI requires that you measure from the outside, and I don't think they're necessarily talking about your physical walking around the property. What they're saying is they want the dimensions to the outside of the property or the outside of the house rather.
That's right.
Of course, your product measures from the inside. Okay, so talk to us about that. How do you compensate for the width of the walls?
Right. So exactly. So we do use a kind of a standard width addition that we add on to estimate what the wall thickness will be based upon our research of typical wall thickness. And so that what that enables us to do is get all the benefits of interior scanning, in that you're not outside trudging through the snow or the hedges in the summer.
I love this.
Yep. And you're getting the interior wall detail, which is all accurate, and you're getting the room placement automated for you. So you're not having to add that in. So all those benefits. And then making sure that we are adhering as close as we can to the ANSI approach by adding in that exterior wall thickness addition. People have asked before, like, could we use your product scanning from the outside? And our answer is like, yes, technically you could, and we could probably return you a result, but that's not really what we're in the game of. We're in the game of trying to make it as easy as possible to automate the hard parts.
Yeah, when it's 8 feet of snow outside, I can tell you I'd much rather be on the inside. Speaking with Jeff Allen, he, of course, is the president of Cubicasa. When we get back, Jeff, I want to talk about some of the changes that are happening in the appraisal industry. First, I want to pause and remind you that we're sponsored by some great companies. Of course, Alamode is the leader in appraisal report writing software, and it's the software that I've used forever. It's the software that my mentor used, and there's a reason. It's a great software, folks. The smart tools that come with this technology are absolutely amazing. Check them out by going to alamode.com, or you can pick up the phone. You can call them, talk to somebody at 800-ALAMODE or alamode.com. Again, 800-ALAMODE or alamode.com. And of course, Working RE Magazine is where I go to find out. We're going to be talking with Jeff in just a little bit about modernization and the way that things are changing in the appraisal world. Folks, you can keep up on all of that with Working RE Magazine, and it's free, Free. Check them out by going to Working RE, that's in workingrealestate.com. Welcome back to the program, everybody. We're speaking with the president of Cubicasa, Mr. Jeff Allen. Welcome back to the program, Jeff.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
I want to talk a little bit about some changes that are occurring. It's given some trepidation to a few appraisers across the nation. Okay, it's giving trepidation to all of us across the nation. Modernization of the appraisal world. What are you hearing, Jeff? And how does Cubicasa fit into some of these changes that are coming?
Well, I think the first thing to note is that modernization of the appraisal process is both, I think, a long time coming. It's been planned for years now.
Sure. Yeah, it's not new.
It's not new. And simultaneously still quite limited in its impact. I think the GSEs recognized years ago that, they needed new approaches to gathering information for collateral risk assessment and give people more options for valuations. Really in the past, it's been, well, you can either get a full traditional appraisal or you can get a waiver, which is essentially blind risk, right? Like we as the GSEs, I think, got a little uncomfortable with the fact that there was only 2 tools in the toolkit, right? For lenders, especially when every property is a little bit different in terms of its risk profile. So they've been testing and piloting this for years, but And I think it's finally getting more, officially accepted by FHFA as something that can be added to the Fannie and Freddie selling guides, as everybody knows. But even with those changes, it's still pretty limited so far. They're being very careful, and they're not just opening this up to every single loan until they really understand it and make sure that the risk in the system is mitigated, and that appraisers' feedback is heard in the process. So I've been impressed with kind of the gradual nature of this and how careful and thoughtful the industry's been.
Right. Yeah, it's still changed though. It's still hard.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So, what do you think are the biggest concerns from appraisers? And let's attack
Yeah.
them head on.
So my now what they say on the offset and what I think they're actually thinking, and I guess that's maybe cocky of me to analyze. But what I hear people saying is they don't like the change in the sense that they don't like to see someone else, for example, out doing an inspection, right? That's traditionally been the appraiser the same one who chooses comps, makes adjustments, the reconciliation, analysis, supports adjustments, all of that stuff is usually done by the same person that does the inspection. Some of that is changing, right? And I think that even though they say, hey, we don't like that, we want to be in control of that side as well. My guess is some of them are a little bit concerned about, income, right? Am I going to get paid the same if somebody else is going out to do the inspection? But really, I think they're concerned about, and then I think this is what, where Cubicasa can come in. They're concerned about accuracy of data, right? They're concerned if I do an appraisal and I'm the analyst, so I'm the one sitting at the desk, I'm the professional that is choosing comps, making adjustments, making some determinations about quality and condition and the important parts of the appraisal, externalities, right? Can I trust the data that I'm getting from that third party?
Right. Yeah, it's a great question. And I think that's where companies like Cubicasa we have a huge responsibility in appraisal modernization to make sure that we're giving reliable and robust data. Because that's going to be what makes this work, is that appraisers who do a hybrid appraisal or do a desktop appraisal have a lot of good intel in order to make a decision. Now, I would challenge the idea that an appraiser has to be the one on site, who also concludes the value. Desktop appraisals have been used really commonly in home equity for a long time. And when you're doing even a traditional appraisal, you're making value determinations on comps without seeing them. You're often relying on third-party data from the MLS, which has, who knows where that square footage and information came from, right? So appraisers are very capable of making good value conclusions without visiting a property. I think experience shows that. But the key is to make sure that the information they're getting is super reliable.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and that's where Cubicasa has a huge responsibility and a role. We're used pretty actively by companies in these pilot programs when folks need a solution to meet the requirements around. It's got to be a detailed floor plan. It's got to have interior walls. It's got to have all the room labels, and it needs to meet the ANSI requirements. So our product is used in that sense, and I can tell you from personal experience that without Cubicasa, it would be really, or technologies like Cubicasa, it would be really challenging for appraisal modernization to take root with non-appraisers. Before I was president of Cubicasa, I was running the innovation labs at Clear Capital, and I helped stand up our first real estate agent-based property data collection pilot.
Okay.
Before we had knowledge of Cubicasa existing, because they didn't. And so we were teaching non-appraisers how to measure and sketch. And I can tell you that is very challenging.
Something that we do on a regular basis. We sometimes don't step back and go, if this isn't something that I do day to day, it's new. We don't know how to do it. So I can imagine that would be a challenge.
Exactly. And it was really inconsistent from inspector to inspector. So what Cubicasa and technologies like Cubicasa do is make the scanning process the consistent part, and the output is consistently generated by the model, right? And it takes that inconsistency and training component out of it.
Very cool. Jeff, it's exciting too. I love technology. I love new stuff. I love I love to see a company thriving in this world, and what a great tool for appraisers if they will just give it a chance. Try it, folks. You heard it here. The first one's free. It can't hurt, right? Download an app, watch a couple YouTube videos on how to do it, and get started. Jeff Allen, Cubicasa, thank you, friend. You are welcome anytime here. Appreciate you coming on today.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for having me. I appreciate it.
We'll talk again soon.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.